back-to-back conversations with members of the Metro Council. We'll have Lamont Cole coming up later on. Right now, though, I want to welcome back Metro Council person Jenn Racca. How are you?
Great. Thank you. Good morning.
Get the spread where it's talking over here. Okay. Sorry about that. All right. First of all, I love the sweater.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, it's if you're not
Happy
watching this on
Christmas.
Facebook Live, it's she's got Will Ferrell and Elf on her Christmas sweater. Most of the Metro Council was decked out at this meeting with the tacky sweaters, as it were.
Yes. So, the 12th month, District 12, asked everybody to wear Christmas sweaters to get in the festive little mood for the holiday season.
I should have known you were behind that.
Yeah. So, a lot of folks were a little nervous about putting those on because we had some pretty serious topics come up.
Yeah, you did.
I thought it was a little Christmas cheer and a reminder that we're still here, still working.
And it is, though, right? Because at the end of the day, we are still a community.
Absolutely.
That if togetherness can be what rules the day, especially around this time of year, regardless of what's on the table. So, no, it was fun to see the pictures, to be sure. All right, let's dive in. Can we start with the garbage and then work backwards to the budget?
Oh, absolutely.
Okay. How did this play out the way it played out? How did we end up where we ended up?
Okay, so first and foremost, I think some of the news articles confused a little bit of what the process was and what that looked like. So I tried to ask some questions to clear that up for the public. We put out an RFP. Republic won the RFP, the bid process. There were a couple other vendors that submitted and looked at the RFP and then failed to respond to all three items that were listed on the agenda. The most important piece is that we need competition in the market.
We do.
And we didn't have it. We didn't have another vendor that could perform the services that Republic currently performs. Whenever you look at Lafayette, and a constituent sent me a very helpful article on what was happening in Lafayette, they fired Republic. Yeah. But the reality of it is their service area was so much smaller, they were able to have competitive bids come in and knock Republic out. We have a CNG, it's a gas collection thing that I'm not an engineer or capable of describing, but whenever Republic came in at the initial piece of the contract, they built out a $10 million facility. They own that facility because they built it out. So anybody that would have to come in would have to build a $10 million facility. So it's a $10 million buy-in automatically when you come in. Then another piece was the people who drafted the RFP asked for gas trucks instead of diesel, natural gas trucks. So those trucks are less impactful on the environment, but they are also not as noisy. So in the morning, hopefully it wouldn't wake you up if they're picking up your trash. So all these things collectively together with inflation, with the increased cost of fuel, with the labor shortage and trying to find qualified drivers, increase the bottom dollar with regard to the contract. So we get that information, or the city gets that, the administration gets that information, and they start looking at what can we do, because the price is going up substantially by approximately $12 a month. Yep. Okay, and you think about that. $12 a month for you may not be a big deal, but for some people, it's 9 cans of SpaghettiOs. It's 4 gallons of gas, whatever the case may be. Whenever you start trying to figure out and work backwards, for some people, it's super impactful. So they tried to mitigate that cost. And by mitigating that cost, their solution was maybe 1 day a week service. You add the cart if you need the cart, and we'll solve all the issues. So you could have your $25 or your $35, depending on your $28 or your $35, depending on what you wanted. So the families that don't, and they did a study, and approximately 60% of the people in Baton Rouge only need once a week service.
I'm in that number.
So those people would be the $28 a month people. Right. People like me and my family that have so much garbage, I have no idea why. We would be the $35 month people, because we would be adding that additional cart. Okay. So that was the solution that we thought worked well for everyone. It got out of control, and the message was more cost, less service. And that was, and I understand how that looks on the face of things, but it was never we're going to decrease your service just because we want to and just make big bad Republic a rich, wealthy company. we were attempting to mitigate the cost for everyone within the city.
No, I get it.
So ultimately, we got so much kickback. We pushback. We got pushback from all of our residents. We had several emails sent each district, and we discussed in passing, hey, are you getting emails? Are you getting emails? What's the consensus? And in District 12, people wanted twice a week.
Okay.
And then whenever you saw people walking in and speaking at the podium, where when you walk up to that podium, we're listening.
Yeah.
Sometimes we will get 100, 200 emails on the issues, and we'll be able to read them all. But if we're doing the work, we're not sitting there being able to respond to every single email. But when you come up to that podium, we're listening to you. And most of the people that came up to that podium wanted twice a week.
That's crazy.
It is, in my opinion, it is crazy. But whenever you look at it, you look at the council members who had that same constituent response of twice a week, don't reduce our services, and you kind of see how it played out and how folks voted. Despite the fact I do have a concern for the people in my district that can't afford the $35 a month, that the $12 is going to affect their monthly lives, you know.
We're talking with Metro Councilwoman Jenn Racca about the increase in garbage fees. Yeah, I was with the potential of it going up by $5 a month and getting less service. That's one of those ones where it's like, okay, I get it. The cost of everything is up. I understand. Their cost of doing business is up. I get that as well. But if you give me a side-by-side of maintain my same service and go up $12 a month, or reduce to once a week and only go up by $5 a month, I'm taking that second one all day long and keeping the $7 a month.
Right. And
so I just, in the side-by-side. And the part about this, and this is going to come up with everything that the city parish does, is I can't opt out.
Right.
And if I want to say, you know what, I'll handle my own garbage. I'll drive out to the dump or whatever. I'll compost as much as possible, and I don't need you. I don't need this service.
I agree. And so Brandon Knoll brought up an interesting point in the open discussion, and that was we're paying for recycling and not everybody recycles. And,
right.
It's not an attack on the environment, but we are paying for that service.
Right.
So, and it would mitigate some of those costs had you been able to say, I opt out of that. Another piece is, and for me, I like to look at the other municipalities and see what's happening. And in Ascension Parish, they've privatized the trash industry. So you get to pick from 3 different vendors. So
that'd be nice.
Wouldn't that be nice? So, and for me, it would be nice because you know what? You don't call me whenever your Cox or your AT&T is not working. If your trash isn't picked up, call your service provider.
Right.
Right. So now the city is micromanaging this service, and there's arguments that you get a better service because we are, but we live in a society where it'd be nice to have some competition and the consumer gets to make the choice.
Yes. And also the recourse if something were to go awry. There's not, so my garbage gets picked up on Mondays and Thursdays, and there's not a Monday or a Thursday where I'm not walking up and down my street, picking up stuff off the ground, in the middle of the street, in my yard, whatever, because, and I realize this is very quickly going to, get off of my lawn. I get it. I understand how I sound when I say it out loud. But there's not a Monday or Thursday where Republic hasn't been sloppy at best with their service.
Yep. And I'm not advocating for Republic at all. Yeah. But I will tell you, part of the contract process and negotiations that we were involved in, and I asked these questions on Wednesday night, is what are we need enforcement. Are there provisions within the contract for lack of picking up? Because I'll have people in my district that'll send me spreadsheets. You missed on this date, this date, this date.
Yes.
We also have people that'll call on 311 or send us a 311 message, and then they'll call my office for a follow-up and say, hey, my trash wasn't picked up. Republic has been very, very responsive with those folks to get out there and get that cart the next day. But there is lack of enforcement. And one of the promises made was that the service would be better because they're now putting cameras on their trucks. So they'll be able to see the guy that's running out with his trash can that missed, or the cart that was just ignored. The other piece was the city maintained the trash. So your trash can, it gets damaged, it gets abused, it gets stolen, it gets thrown in the back of the truck with the hand and the truck drives off. All the bloopers that I've seen constituents send. The city used to replace that cart. Okay. Now Republic has taken a responsibility, and hopefully it'll be a more efficient process, and your cart will be brought to you much faster.
So when the negotiations were underway, Metro Councilman Aaron Moak said, if Republic is not living up to their end of it, they can be fined or we can withhold payment from them, which is great on the surface, but who gets that money?
So Rick Spear talked about that, and it goes into some pot. And I tried to get him to explain it on the record, and it wasn't absolutely clear, but it goes into, I don't know, some sort of bucket to where it can be reimbursed, and I'm sure it's a process.
Reimbursed back to the taxpayer?
Hopefully.
Okay.
I don't know, but I don't know in what form.
Exactly, because
I don't know
if I'm the one paying $35 a month and I'm the one who's not satisfied with my service and I'm the one that files a complaint, the city parish is the one that gets the refund.
Right. But he said that he based upon the terms of the contract, he thought that it would never get to that because he thinks that if it is missed, they have an opportunity to remedy it within 24 hours or depending on what the day is, to go and get that cart the next day.
Got Metro Councilwoman Jenn Racca for another 5 minutes or so. Jen, let's move over to the budget, $1.8 billion. Golly, it seemed like everything went relatively smoothly.
It did. There was a lot of behind the scenes. You got to remember, we tried to change the plan of government, and that ultimately failed, where it would give us an additional month to look at that budget and better prepare, because you have to remember, it takes 8 votes to make any changes.
Yes.
So we looked at it. There were some things that we asked for with regard to $5 million of stormwater fee that we needed additional moving forward in this budget year. But ultimately, things went fairly well.
Are you comfortable with where the stormwater money is at right now in terms of what is going to be allocated to it is going to be enough to get us back into compliance?
So anybody that sits in this chair and says they're comfortable with it, you need to maybe ask them again and ask them again and ask them again, because we still have 4,000 documents that have not been reviewed. And I can personally attest that I have not reviewed them. I attempted to review them. I have an item on the agenda in 2023 because of the inability to get to those 4,000 documents and see the unredacted versions of those because they've been held by the parish attorney's office, and you can only view them through a special process. And what person has time to go and sit and view 4,000 documents in one day? Anybody that says, oh, yeah, I'm comfortable with that, I wouldn't trust that answer.
How much of the conversation was dominated by stormwater? Because that's just one area of the entire city parish budget and agenda.
Stormwater is a big deal.
It is.
But if do a poll, crime is the bigger deal. What's happening with crime?
Yeah, the flip side of that is once you've opened that Pandora's box, but what dollar amount solves crime?
So it's so many different issues.
Yeah.
So many folks have to come together and sit at a table, stop talking and start doing.
Right.
Stop talking. Don't tell me about a program. Don't tell me where the money's going about a program. Tell me if the program is working.
And how do you put an ROI on that? How do you determine the level of what is working? What is success in that regard?
Absolutely. And here's another thing that I just can't hear one more time. Do not blame anything on COVID. COVID, regardless of whether it happened or it's still happening or it's continuing to happen, we know what that looks like. We know what a pandemic looks like. What changes have we made? We can't say, oh, that happened because of COVID. Move forward. We're past the pandemic far enough, or whether we're still in it, we're past the impactful part long enough to say, all right, well, this is reality now. What changes are we making to deal with it?
Every time budget talks come up, I'm going to bring up the question, and we got less than a minute to go, and I apologize for squeezing this in this tight window. Undedicating funds. Have we moved any further towards that end?
So their rededication of taxes, we're looking at it again. And I'm sure there are people that are proud, their hair is just sticking up because that's just ugly words right now. But the reality of it is we either have to rededicate and move some money, or we have to issue another tax.
Which we're going to. It's going to happen.
Wants a tax right now?
Nobody.
How are you feeling about your trash contract?
Exactly.
And now I'm going to ask you for more money. Hey, you know what? Do me a favor, everybody that's listening. Go turn over your annual dues bill. Your property tax bill, and make sure you're using the library, Breck Parks. Go take a ride on Cats, because based upon what you're paying, make sure you get your annual dues in. Make sure you do it.
No, absolutely. And this is one. It's funny you bring this up, and we're going to skip CBS News. We're going an extra 60 seconds. Yeah, my wife brings this up every year, and you want to talk. My wife is probably the sweetest, most docile person out there. You want to see her curse like an old lady losing at bingo? You hand her the what in the are we paying this for?
Yep.
What this? What do? And she'll break it down item by item, and I'm like, I know. This is where we're at right now.
You're going to see me this weekend with my 3-year-old up and down the slides at the local parks.
Yeah.
And all of them, we're going to hit them all
you
up.
You hit that slide again.
Yeah. No, we are not going home, sir.
You've got to go down that slide 10 more times than us for us to get $1 per use at this point. Yeah.
This is your Disney.
It's exactly right. Oh, just, give me a turkey leg and a churro and we're there.
Right.
She is Metro Councilwoman Jenn Racca. We always appreciate the time and the festive sweater as well.
You.
We got a break for news coming back.